it towards national political institutions. Okay, understood? It has a possible impact on all these spheres, right? If we talk about the economic aspects, see for instance in economics, globalization engages in various aspects of cross-border transactions, right? Whether it be a free international capital flows or a foreign direct investments, yeah, or portfolio investment. There are a rapid and widespread diffusion of technology. Then there are proponents of globalization who argue that the concept of globalization enhances economic prosperity and leads to more efficient allocation of resources. So which in turn will result in higher output, and which will further lead to more employment, lower prices, and higher standard of living, right? So these are the argument. And however, some of the critics also worry about the resulting outsourcing and offshoring things, which have destroyed the manufacturing sector as a whole in the entire world. So economic aspects of globalizing trends always have an impact on all other subcategories as well, whether be it cultural or technological aspects, right? So the latest economic trends are closely bound up with politics, and among them we can mention implications on the neoliberal economic in general as well, because concentration of the media and their ownership and the rationalizing processes are associated with the globalization trend. And the cultural aspects include commercialization, of course, or the so-called, we have this term called as Disneyfication, because you know, Walt Disney is the leading premier in the it is dominating the film industry world. And then we have foreign concept in food industry like McDonald's. So that can be also termed as McDonaldization by the world, because they are dominating all these spheres. They are impacting the cultural aspect, and the nexus between culture and consumerism, we can say, are they are broadening the broader area of cultural imperialism. Regarding the technological aspect, we can say that we have to stress the process of digitalization and the increasing effect of globalization, because new media is evolving. It's always evolving, right? So one of the pillars of today's economic order is the economic theory and its implications. They are one of the pillars of today's economic order. So it can be stressed that there is a possible impact on economic aspect as well. And talking about cultural diversity, it is believed that commercialization in the media structure are definitely a threat to diversity and sovereignty of any nation, because the West is dominating with their products in the industry. So the through their film products, through their television shows. So the prosperity of cultural boundaries, they are endangered by media globalization, and it has also given rise to concerns over cultural sovereignty and cultural rights, the freedom of their cultural rights. So while such concerns have been dismissed by critics of globalization for developing countries, the economic reality of which the development of strong local productions, they foster on imported programming. So these concerns are quite relevant, and various research have been conducted, and it is shown that the local productions are weak, and it is made by foreign media, and it can also be very dangerous, right? Because it is a threat to the free flow of communication, right? There is an imbalance in the flow of communication. So these days the media has they have become the chief transmitters of culture. So the traditional showcases of culture or museums, theaters, and then there are art galleries or libraries. They have handed over part of their functions to the cinema screens, like televisions, or we can say computers, and media where culture has greater distribution and scope, right? Like theater. And since the images reach broader through television to the more heterogeneous and widespread audiences, cultural diversity is recognized externally and both externally and internally, right? So it has a effect on cultural diversity. And talking about technological aspects, technological change has always been the principal force shaping the evolution of the media, right from the start advancement of the new media technologies. So each of the past revolutions in communications technology, they created a distinct media forms that evolved into their own industries. So in the last few years, technological achievements in the context of globalization of, or we can say media environments, they have gained a lot of prominence. And right now the process of digitalization is one of the fastest moving trends, right? So they're one of the fastest moving trends of the current media, and also they represent great challenge as well as hopes for the future of the electronic media, I can say. So however, content is becoming increasingly digitalized these days, right? It can all become undifferentiated bits of data. They are converged into the same platform. So this trend is bringing us what we can drastical change, and unprecedented levels of complexity is there to the current media business model as part of the digital broadcasting. Okay, besides we can say audio and video, other data in the form of text or other audio channels, etc., through podcast or through digital television. You can choose from which angle or you would like to watch. With just a click, you can vote or you can participate in an opinion poll about the popularity of a government's policy, or choose from the whatever content is been offered, you can choose, and also you can participate, right? So these are the effects of globalization on cultural, technological, and economic aspects. Then talking about the impact of these new media technologies, we can say digital technology, they are multiplying the possibilities for the transmission of contents, right? Because they offer new opportunities for the promotion of cultural diversity. So the analysis of the situation cannot be based on a technological aspect determining dealing exclusively with technical or industrial consideration. But we have to look at the way in which the new technologies can influence culture in the countries, and this must be taken into account without attempting to cover everything, because they should be every country, every nation has their right to choose their culture, right? So it should not be a single culture cannot dominate the entire world. So the main tendencies are considered, while disseminating the form of culture they want to promote. Okay, clear? So considering the advantages and disadvantages of globalization in the light of the analysis that has been done in the context of media especially, there is an argument that much globalization effect can be inevitable, because its consequences sometimes may be devastating. So it is therefore there is a need for an appropriate response in a view to understand the dynamics that will hopefully help to evolve measures that will reduce the devastating effects of globalization, like a dominance of single culture, or the food industry which is dominating by the West. So that there has to be certain measures. Okay. So and media will definitely play a prominent role in dissemination of all these information. Okay, because the perspective on globalization differs sharply, and these differences can be well defined by the media, by the media industry. Okay, any doubts? Okay, then yesterday we discussed about some of the organizations working towards the dissemination of international or transnational communication, right? So there is one popular international organization, that is Amnesty International organization. Amnesty International is a global movement of more than 10 million people, and they have their presence in over 150 countries and territories, and they campaign to end the abuses of human rights. So basically, they work for the protection of human rights. Okay, and if in India is also a member of Amnesty International, and the first office of Amnesty International was set up in Bihar in the year 1966. And since then, the organization has been working on cases related to torture, prisoners of conscience, abusive laws, women's rights, child rights, and then they also work for corporate accountability and other human rights violation. Just like HRC, we have Human Rights Commission, right? This is a global version of that organization, Amnesty International. Okay, but there have been a lot of criticism on the working of Amnesty International, because critics argue that claims of there is a selection bias on the basis of country as well as ideology. Then foreign policy is also biased against either non-Western countries or Western supported countries. So these are some criticisms laid upon the Amnesty International. But apart from that, they are doing a commendable work for the protection of human rights across globe. Okay, and there are individuals who finances Amnesty International's work, and the overwhelming majority of their income comes from individuals all over the world. Anybody can contribute or donate to these organizations. Because these personal and unaffiliated donations also allow Amnesty International to maintain their full independence from any form of government control or political ideologies or economic interest or religion, because this organization is fully funded. Okay, so I'm sharing the link of this organization in the chat box. So whenever you're free, just go through this website, and also you can also be a part of a member of this organization, or also if you want, you can fund or donate. Okay, so this is the website of Amnesty International, and it's a very popular organization working towards the protection of human rights. Okay, then we'll talk about democratization of communication. The democratization is an ongoing dynamic process in which people make an attempt to participate at all levels of responsibilities. So what is democracy in general? What do you understand by the term democracy? Anyone? What is democracy?
For the people, by the people, and of the people.
Yeah, true. It is the participation of the people, involvement of the people in the decision making process, right? So India is a democratic country. So including the people in the decision making process. So involving of people, where people make an attempt to participate at all levels of responsibilities and decision making that will affect them directly or indirectly. Okay, then communication. What is communication? What is communication?
To convey the message, like
Yeah, transmission of messages. The term communication is defined by the transmission view as imparting or sending, or we can say transmitting information to others, right?
With an exchange of understanding.
Yeah.
In communication, there is an exchange of information with basic, at least a basic level of understanding.
Yeah, that's right. Very good. So the purpose is to make the people understand, to make the people informed, right? It's the very basic purpose of communication. So whereas from the point of view of ritual, it is defined as a term of sharing or participating, or we can say association with people. So talking about democratization of communication, the phrase democratization of communication infers people's freedom to communicate their opinion and to receive any information that they need, right? They should have the freedom of, receiving any information or communicating their information with others, sharing of information with others. And such people's communication is seen as part of the democratic process and also as a basic human right. So sharing and receiving information is a basic human right, fundamental right. So in order to move towards an ideal democracy, the first step is to see that people have freedom to inform and to be informed, right? Everyone has the basic right, okay, to inform and to get informed. So democratization of communication essentially demands people's participation not only at the interaction level among individuals or representation in administration or in the government of public communication, but also in the public policy making process, right? Involvement of people, participation of people in the decision making process. So this would result in sharing a greater diversity of meanings and plurality in cultural understandings of society. People uh, will be in a well-informed society. People will feel themselves as a part of the decision-making process. So this process should be carried out at local, national, and also at global spheres. This is a basic human right which has to be followed. And in the McBride report also, that the democratization of communication is defined as the process whereby the individual becomes a partner and not a mere object of communication. That, okay, this information is being levied on you and you have to blindly follow. No, people has to be a part of that decision making process, and then they'll willingly follow, because if they agree, it is for their own good, right? So the variety of messages exchange increases if people participate, and we get a lot of feedback from the people, and the extent and quality of social representation or participation in communication is balanced here. There is a rapport between the government and the people, public as a whole. So in this process, people are actively involved, not only receiving, but also in sending the message, right? Providing the feedback. So this means every member of the society should have access to all the means of communication in order to allow each to participate effectively in political, or we can say in public policy making. Because if a citizen is well informed, he can take wise decisions, right? Well informed decisions. So this has to be stressed upon. And if talking about the present mode of communication, at present the most used mode of communication in society seems to be, we can say, through it is unidirectional or vertical form, because from the center to the mass and from the rich to the poor, or we can say from few to many. So this is the current trend of information mode of communication these days. So there are communication studies who look at the mass media as if the mass can participate only as a select and active audience, through with some exceptions, right? Well, illiteracy should not be a barrier in the process of decision making. Okay, there is a concept of digital divide. Okay, those who have access to the new media technologies, and those there is a difference between the people who have access and do not. So that is also a threat and a barrier in the involvement of people in the decision making process at the central level or the global level. So this unidirectional communication is intended by those who control these levels to produce an efficient and smooth functioning society. There should be a mediator or a channel, proper channel. And there are some barriers of democratization of communication, which was seen or recommended in the McBride's Commission's report, which identifies 10 barriers for the society, and the undemocratic nature of the society. Then there are bureaucratic habits in communication, the involvement, okay, the dominance of bureaucrats. And then there are vertical communication, one-way communication. Then inappropriate technologies or illiteracy, as I said, digital divide. Or there is also sometimes inadequacy of communication channels. from where the information is being disseminated. Okay, sometimes people are not clear. They themselves don't know that what the center or what the government, what the international organizations, what are the policies of the organizations. So half knowledge, people don't have much knowledge about those mediums. Then there is a lot of diversity and choice. Okay, they have their own particular ideologies. There is a lack of knowledge, okay, to decode, to understand. So these are some of the barriers of democratization of communication. Okay, so McBride report also recommended a few steps to break these barriers. So to break through these barriers, the McBride Commission also recommended many steps, which includes participation in media management by representatives of the public and various citizens groups like citizen journalism. Okay, people should be allowed to participate in the media management process also. And instead of vertical communication, there should be horizontal communication, that is two-way. Once people get the information, they should be allowed to send the message, that is they should be allowed to provide a feedback. Okay, then counter information and the forms of alternative communication, all these things, for example, if they have some union, media union or trade unions or other social groups, so with the help of that particular organization, people can voice their opinions or views if they are unable to participate through because of illiteracy or lack of infrastructure. So all these things were recognized or suggested by McBride Commission as a solution for the democratization of participation of people. Okay, so this is also possible not only by providing technological means through these organizations, but also by attempting to reinterpret beliefs that they might change, because media has the power of changing beliefs, right? To change the public attitude and the opinion on which the principles of top to down communication have been set up. So we have to empower people, and then only we can enable them to participate in the democratization process. So as ideas about free market solutions also started circulating, the debates here on international information flows and then within UNESCO were also changing. And the organization itself was gradually losing its primacy as the premier forum for discussing international communication issues. I'm talking about UNESCO. When the McBride Commission issued this report regarding the imbalances or the lack of participation of people in the process. So the focus of debate too had shifted from news and information flows to such areas, global telecommunication. Then with the International Telecommunications Union, yesterday we discussed in detail about that organization. So all these organizations working towards the free flow of transnational communication or the global communication have been acquiring greater importance. And still, these organizations are there for the people, right? And then another key contributing factor was the availability of new information technologies and the growing convergence between information, or we can say informatics, the combination of computer and telecommunication systems that traditionally dealt with us, they were dealt as separate entities. So amongst all these, there was the new World Information and Communication Order debate, which was going on at that time. They faded into insignificance because as information was being privileged over communication that time. So it was a trend which received new prominence or importance with the process associated with the information society. That means communication was gaining importance, prominence over information. Okay. Any doubts? Understood the concept of democratization of communication?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we also discussed in detail about these organizations, right, yesterday. So now today we'll discuss about the impact of globalization on culture. Any examples you want to give, like what is the possible impact of globalization on culture? What has been the impact?
Ma'am,
So first of all,
a
let
prime
me
example.
tell what is culture actually. What do you understand by the term culture?
Culture is related to religion like that, no?
See, culture we can say is it's a socially established norms or patterns of
Yeah.
behavior.
It differs from country to country.
Yeah, it differs from every society has their own patterns of culture. The religious beliefs
Yeah.
also is part of the culture. See, we can say the way people think, the way of thinking, the way of acting, the material objects that together shape a people's way of forming an opinion, their way of living their life, right? The way people live their life, the belief system which they follow, the patterns of their behavior, right? All these things can be termed as culture.
Yeah, which is followed in the olden days. That
Yeah. So, what do you understand by the term globalization culture, or what have been the possible impact of globalization on culture with regards to with Indian society?
Ma'am, a prime example is you mentioned Indian society is the westernization of we say Indian values or Indian culture. For example, a shift from joint family to a nuclear family to a to couples living together. Factors like dress code, in terms of eating habits. There are many influences that we see of the Western culture impacting Indian culture, and vice versa. One example is how our system of song and music, especially in films, is now percolating to the rest of the world as well, and the kind of impact it has. And the dress code, you see a lot of Westerners wearing saris, whereas, yeah, we have seen a reverse in India. So it's just a couple of examples: food habits, lifestyles, dressing, family setup, etc.
Yes, it's very good. You have briefly explained like what has been the possible impact of globalization on culture. And do you think it is the cultural globalization occurs through the media? The impact have been with largely through the media.
Definitely, ma'am, because media is the means through which a larger segment of the society is impacted. At the same time, globalization has also helped us in our travel, and we visit a lot more countries, and vice versa. They visit us. So there is a personal level of exchange that happens and impact that happens, but it is curtailed to very small pockets. It is the media which has a larger impact in terms of globalization of culture. What is depicted, say, on screen, in electronic media, what is being used in radio, in terms of communication, the terms that we use, the lingo, newspapers, what items are carried, and how they are, portrayed. Films, again, mass media. So there are media has a predominant role to play, whereas travel and personal exchange has a smaller impact to play. That is my opinion now.
Yeah, that's right. See, in conclusion, can we say that cultural globalization refers to the emergence of a specific set of values and beliefs that are largely shared around the world, globe, or we can say planet?
Yes,
Can we
definitely,
say that?
ma'am.
Yeah.
because I think more and more we see at some level there is a commonality being developed between the various countries, at least in terms of some accepted norms. For example, when we talk in terms of say people how they behave on social media, there is a subtle control by the public themselves in terms of the language they use, or the kind of hatred they may be spreading, or in terms of how they're trolling people. So this is something which you can find very commonly across many countries, and that is irrespective of the country, the language, etc. So definitely, I think in the longer run, while we are going to control our larger base of culture, there will be a commonality that will be developed across various nations.
Yeah, there is a single culture that has been followed across the globe.
Yes,
So media, yeah, we can say media has played a prominent role. And do you think new media has significant role when compared to traditional form of media? Because youngsters these days are hooked on to new media and their social media. So do you think that has also impacted the culture?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Because what has happened in new media is, instead of us being a recipient of the information that is being passed on to us, we have also become communicators. So we, in turn, are able to, to shape others' ideas, to express our ideas, to get impacted. It's a free flow of information vis-a-vis the earlier traditional media. So definitely, new media, and particularly the involvement of youth, has played a major role in the dissemination of common culture to everyone who is on the www.
Right, Madhavi. We have elaborately discussed, like you have explained, like how globalization has an impact on the culture, and of course, media plays a very important role here. On the culture. And then there are film products as well, right? There are shows, television shows, which are being what we can say directly copied. We have Big Boss, right? On Colors. This show is also from the West, right? It has been copied. So there is a debate over that show as well, that it's not a part of Indian culture, right? But it has garnered a lot of TRP. Why? Because people are consuming that products, and it's mostly aimed towards youngsters. We have food chains like McDonald's, right? What was the traditional or staple food of Indian society? We have breakfast was like idli, dosa, all these things. Right now we have burgers, fries. This is a Western concept, and McDonald's is dominating the Indian market. Do you agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
This is a term. There's a term called as McDonaldization. Have you heard? That means the dominance of McDonald's. What they have done is they have entered into the Indian market, and then they have customized their products, their food, menu. That they have all these things now. Earlier they were just burgers or fries. Now they have aloo tikkis, and they have customized their food menu in with the Indian you know Indian taste. And so this is also, they want to dominate the market scenario. And still McDonald's is also very popular, a food chain outlet here in India, especially among the youngsters.
Ma'am, because of the food is taste, it is dominated, or because it has come from the West, it is dominated? In which way we
brand
can...
value, of course, it plays a very important role. But as I said, they have customized to the taste of Indians. There's so many varieties, right? And
Maybe
people,
salt and
brand
pepper
value
in that
plays a
way.
very important role. First thing is the brand, their international presence, right? People these days want to follow brand. They have brand loyalty, right? They feel that, okay, if there is this brand called as Zara, Have you heard about that brand?
Yes, ma'am. Clothing brand.
So yeah, clothing brand. So people, why do they buy that brand? Like, it's very expensive, right? So why do the youngsters prefer Zara? There are so many Indian brands as well, but why do they prefer that? Why do they prefer the Western, the international brands?
Ma'am, because it is branded, they prefer.
They feel that like they are they are in on par with the trends. They like it's a trending. They want to be in the trend. They want to the youngsters, why they purchase all these things, why they go for iPhone, why they want to buy an iPhone instead of other phones, why is iPhone so popular in the markets? We have heard so many cases of people, of youngsters doing illegal activities just to buy an iPhone.
One is in terms of the brand itself, ma'am. It has become a status symbol like Zara. It has become iPhone. Owning an iPhone is a status symbol. Though the product features are many, and in terms of the kind of, how friendly it is for a user and the kind of features it has.
Yeah, I would say the same features are there in other mobiles, Android mobiles as well. But why? It is because of the brand value,
Brand
right?
value. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, brand value and the international, the globe, what we can say, modernization, international trend, because it's an international brand, right? iPhone.
Yes, yes. And also it has its own, since it has its own operating system and everything, so people feel good, like you said, the brand value. Same with Zara.
Madam,
It's
Yeah.
captions.
not only brand, madam, it is having lot of features in iPhone. Like it may be protect virus and antivirus. Like that, we have
Yeah,
select
the
lot of
features.
features
Yeah,
in
yeah.
iPhone along with the brand status.
But the main important point here is the brand loyalty or brand value, because what people are reluctant to experiment with other mobiles. They change their mobiles with updated versions of their iPhones. So we would say it's a brand loyalty, right? They are loyal towards the particular
Loyalty is there,
brand.
but along with that, we have some features in that.
Yeah. Here somebody wrote good quality. Yes, good quality. But here the thing is the loyalty towards a brand. They don't want to switch. They don't want to experiment. They want to get be flow with the trend. They want to go with the trend.
Okay.
So this is also a cultural impact, right? Impact of globalization on culture. Just impacted, right? There are so many phones, mobile phones, but they're reluctant. We have iPhone 14, so people have been changing their, whenever there is a new version of iPhone in the market, people go and buy, right? They exchange, or they buy the latest version of the mobile. So this is also one of the impact of globalization on culture. So there are so many examples we can give in various spheres of life, right? In every sector, there is an impact. And talking about cultural imperialism, see, the word imperialism refers to the uh, politics of states to expand their empire and in the sphere of power and influence. Right? See, cultural imperialism can be seen as a process of imperial control that operates through forms of culture, and that is more effective than earlier forms of colonial domination through military occupation or foreign administration or economic dependency. Okay, so cultural imperialism has different names in different spheres. In academic literature also it has different names. It has been sometimes called as media imperialism, or cultural colonialism, or communication imperialism. But all these things are the cultural imperialism, one name of cultural imperialism, because culture has so many influences, right? Cultural influence, if you talk about cultural influences, the source of most global information flows is, as we all discussed, is in mass media, right? So The dominance of the US in the world today is based not only on its military power or because of their economic power, but also because of its cultural presence, right? Because people believe that all ideas of the good life or and personal success, most of the dreams of individuals and societies across the globe are dreams, churned out by practices. Like they want to go to, they have, we call something called as American dreams, right? Everybody wants to go to US for studies or for the job. They want to relocate for the better lifestyle. So they have that concept in mind. These are the cultural influences on the people, right? This attribute is called as soft power because it's the ability to persuade people, right? To soft, I mean, instead of a dominating rule, it's like influencing people in a softer way. Over time, we get used to hegemony that we hardly notice. People doesn't notice that. This is the cultural influences which is impacting the society. And if you talk about the consequences of these cultural influences, we can say the consequences of globalization cannot be confined only to the sphere of politics or economics. Uh, Globalization affects us in our home as well, in what we eat, in what we drink, or in what we wear. All these things are indeed in what we think, also in our preferences, right? Our preferences have changed, the choices have changed. So globalization has already affected in our homes as well, not only at the politics or economics or the overall national level, but it has entered our home. And the cultural effect of globalization also poses a threat to cultures around the world. Not only in India, it has been a threat to nations around the world. So looking at the global cities where there is a consistent brand name or consumerism exists, here cultural globalization can appear to act as a solvent, dissolving cultural differences. So that's why we have this scheme of Prime Minister like Made in India. Why they have launched Made in India? Any idea? Like, what is the aim of launching Made in India?
Yes, madam. The develop the new innovations, and also the new environment around the globally.
Yeah, people should buy Indian stuff, right?
Yes.
We have so many resources in our country. There are so many people in our country who are working hard, and but people, they tend to they want to follow the international brands. They're
It's a
obsessed
new
with the
startup
international brands. So
for the national international level. New startups for the international level, and under the policy of the Make in India.
yeah, so instead of dissolving cultural differences to create homogeneity across the globe, or what we called as cultural homogenism, means every nation, every society has their own culture. So it was meant for the localization of the culture. So we can say this is also a new trending term, localization. That means localization. So localization at a global level. So localization can be referred to the mixing of the global with the local, right? What do you understand by mixing of global with the local? The local products with a global touch, right? The quality. Talking about the quality here. As you said, iPhone has so many features which are not there in another Android phone. So if we incorporate all those features in an Android mobile, then do you think people will go for iPhone? People will have a second thought, second opinion. Okay, if I am getting all these features in an Android mobile, so why would I waste my money and go for an iPhone? So it is
What's
not.
today? What's the topic of that? Because I will not attend the at the time of
We're
beginning.
talking about the globalization and its impact on culture
Global
and media. Yeah.
its impact. Okay.
Okay, so we can say that globalization refers to the mixing of the global with the local. So it is not entirely spontaneous. It will take some time, and then we can, succeed in, providing all the For example, see, if we talk about global culture here, there is a rise of a uniform culture. As we said, it's not the emergence of a global culture, but a uniform culture. What is uniform culture? The culture of the West, right? That is a uniform culture across the globe now. So what we have in the name of global culture is the imposition of Western culture on the rest of the world. Only one uniform culture is imposed on the rest of the world. That is the Western culture. So the culture of the political or economical dominant society, they leave its imprint on a less powerful society, that is developed world and developing world, right? So, and the world begins to look more like the dominant power wishes it to be, because the developing world, the developing nations wants to get developed, so they follow the footsteps of the developed world, right? So they consider that developed world as an ideal means and follow their footsteps towards success. They feel that if we follow these steps, their footsteps, then we can also become a developed world. We can also develop ourselves. So this is very dangerous, not only for the developing countries, but for the whole of humanity, because every society, every culture is different, and it can lead to the shrinking of the rich cultural heritage of the entire globe. So India has also its rich and varied beautiful culture, right? So it is being destroyed by the dominance of the West. So people should understand that we should not blindly follow the footsteps of the developed world, but we have to take whatever is necessary, and then rest of the thing has to be followed through the whatever have been there in our society from decades. And then technology have also played a very important role in the dissemination of culture. For example, we can say the establishment of the infrastructures or cultural production.
So,
That is
madam,
the film.
the establishment of infrastructure and the globalized level, how to possible that, madam? How to
Sorry.
possible for the infrastructure other countries in under the impact of the globalization?
See, it is through the production, the means of production. As I said, there are so many films, then shows, the reception of transmission of these shows. There is a cultural flow, right? There is reception to the extent to which cultural flows, and these processes are institutionalized, we can say, or are regularized, and they are embedded in the minds of the people. Because youngsters, they have a mindset, what is trending, they also want to be in the trends, right? So as with any form of power, here cultural power cannot be mobilized and displayed here, because media has the power to create, transmit, reproduce, and receive cultural messages or practices through various forms, right? So we can say that therefore globalization of culture implies emergence of infrastructure or institutions of cultural transmission. And then we can say reproduction also has played a very important role here. Reproduction of shows, right? I gave the example of Big Boss show. Then we have Indian Idol, talent hunt shows. Those are also, the Western formats which have been reproduced in Indian versions, and they have been widely received by the Indian audiences at a transnational scale as well. So it's not only in India but in other countries as well. So there is a culture of consumption, we can say, because there are two ways of understanding culture. We can say the culture of consumption, like whatever we consume, and the other one can be a corporate culture. So one of the major dimension of the globalization has been the commodification, or we can say commercialization of daily life. As I said, cultural consumption of art or food, fashion or music. Then, as Madhavi said, tourism. It shapes to a large extent the growth of the cities, right? So this is evident in the growth of shopping malls. Then we have these days multiplex cinema halls. We have amusement parks and water world in every major city in India. This is also the result of globalization of commercialization, right? So the themes and underlying values of many American and European movies, then television programs, as I said, and there are advertisements also. What they do is they normalize the materialistic assumptions about what counts as a good life, right? Or a life worth living. For example, earlier what was meant as luxury is now seen as a necessity, right? For example, air condition was seen as a luxury earlier days, but now it has become a necessity. I'm talking about the Indian context here. So most significantly, advertisements and the media in general, they promote a culture where spending is important, right? iPhone is so costly, AC, right? To be careful with money is no longer a virtue now, because shopping is a part-time pastime activity. It has as a pastime activity. It's been encouraged by these advertisements, right? Through all the establishments of these shopping malls, we have some concept of window shopping. So as a result, one part of the cultural impact of globalization has been to create a global consumer culture. Okay, in West, AC, air condition, all these things is a necessity. In India, it was a luxury, but now in India also it's a necessity. Do you agree with that? Okay, so yeah, these have been the impact of globalization on culture, and then it has also an impact on language as well, right? People's language has also changed. There are so many examples we can give. See, each language is unique, so no one knows what riches may be hidden. So here, dominance of English, right? We can say the impact of globalization on language. English can be a good example. And many Indian languages have also disappeared, right? So, and the loss of languages that we face today will greatly restrict how much we can learn about human culture or human cognition in the name of language. So this has been a huge impact on language as well. Okay, so any doubts? Are you clear?
Madam, kindly share the details on group now, madam, in a globalization and its impact.
I don't have any notes with me now. I'll create notes and I'll
Just
share with you at the
key
end of the
points
classes,
and
after all the class.
okay.
Okay, so that's all for today, and see you next week. Okay, next Sunday.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. If you have any doubts, just let me know.
Sure,
Everyone.
ma'am.
Yeah, definitely, madam. Please,
Okay,
please
thank you,
kindly
madam.
share the points, madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
Easily.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.